stick with DC, and then we'll move on to some questions here in just a moment. So, All-Star Superman, Grant Morrison finally shares his review of James Gunn's Superman. Let's get into that and see what he says. Okay, comic book movie says, All-Star Superman and Action Comics writer Grant Morrison has shared his review of Superman in a Q&A that saw him touch on Damian Wayne's Spider-Man and the Absolute Universe. James Gunn's Superman was released this past July to positive reviews, and when all was said and done, it made over $650 million at the worldwide, making it the highest-grossing superhero movie of 2025. The filmmaker and DC Studios co-CEO wore his inspirations on his sleeve, with Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly's All-Star Superman among them. Now Morrison has shared his verdict on the DCU blockbuster. He kept his thoughts brief, said, I thought it was the best Superman movie yet. Each Superman movie has earned a passionate fan base, so those who hold Superman the movie and Man of Steel in the same high regard may have something to say about this. However, many fans would surely agree with Morrison's take, given Superman's adherence to the comics and what it's done for the DC brand as a whole. The full AMA is worth a read, with Morrison also sharing his thoughts on DC Comics' Absolute Universe. I heard the Ultimate Universe was being destroyed, but the Absolute line has been a masterstroke from Scott Snyder and his collaborators. It's the best update on these characters since the Silver Age. I think they feel fresh, and that's what ancient comic book universe needs. Another fan wondered how he feels about the evolution of Damian Wayne as Robin. Morrison created the character in 2006, revealing him as the previously unseen son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. I haven't really followed what's been happening with Damian. I don't get comp boxes anymore. I knew he'd come back to life because he'd become popular. He will always be a future version of Batman in some sliding timeline, but Bruce Wayne will always be Batman, so it's hard for the sidekicks when their appeal runs dry. He added that Damian should probably become a whole new costume character, though Batman's son remains in the role of Robin as we write this. Another interesting tidbit came when Morrison revealed why he never pushed for an Amazing Spider-Man run, despite once having a story revolving around the past and present versions of the web slinger. He said, I think Spider-Man is a great character, but I just bounce off him. I had one idea years ago about the skinny nerd Ditko Spider-Man meeting the contemporary version who's married to MJ and has a great apartment. Mysterio was the villain. I couldn't raise the enthusiasm to write it. I don't have any ideas for Spider-Man at all for some reason. Superman, when the Man of Tomorrow gets drawn as a conflict at home. Okay. All right. So, I mean, I think there's a similar conversation that I had with Steph yesterday on, I can't remember which. Oh, we were talking about the Batgirl story. It's one of the actors who had seen the movie. And before the article, we even read it. I said, let me guess. He said it was great. And that's exactly what he said. He said it was great. But what are you supposed to say in a situation like that? The guy was in the movie. Was he going to crap on everybody who he's working? Of course not. He's gonna say, I wish we could have seen it. I wish we could have seen it.
I mean, I wish everybody would take that mentality, bro. I not to keep diving into sports. We'll talk offline. If you saw what Tua did with the Dolphins, that's crazy.
Okay, but that's sports. That's different from inside. But this is.
No, I get it. I'm saying take a lesson and don't shit on your team.
Yeah, right. And that's what he did. So this is the same thing here. Guy's still working with James Gunn, still doing stuff with James. Oh, I thought, look, we're doing more stuff, but I thought the movie was shit. He's not gonna say that. No. And do I believe him that he thinks it's the best Superman? I do. I believe him. But I don't think he's not gonna piss off Gunn right now. No. So you take it with a grain of salt, but it's more of the stuff he's talking about with like Damian Wayne and those things. I am so intrigued. I'm out of all the stuff, and not just because of the obvious that it's Batman, but I'm so intrigued where they're gonna go with this story. Kris, let me start with that. And this isn't necessarily related to this article, but it is, I guess, Damian Wayne involved. Do you think they're gonna stick with Brave and the Bold? You think they're gonna stick with it, or are they gonna go somewhere else in general with Batman? I want to tell you guys once again about strawberry.me. It's been so beneficial to me. It really is. It helps people move from just a job to fulfilling career by providing personalized coaching and a clear plan of action. It certainly was the case for me, just to hear my progression, things that I've done in my life, and hear what I could do, what I should focus on. It's been so helpful because you want to have a job, right? Everybody wants to have a job, but what you really need, you want, is career. It's not something that only provides income, but it's a sense of self-worth. It's a sense of accomplishment. If you feel stuck in your job and you want to level up your career, you really should check out strawberry.me. It's a coaching service. It's going to help you move up the ladder, negotiate better pay. You can land a job that you love in an industry that you're passionate about. You just take a quick quiz, and then strawberry.me is going to match you with a career coach who is best suited to help you achieve your goals. It certainly was the case for me. Sitting down, talking to someone, questions being asked, me answering in ways that I've never really thought about before. It's monumental. And you really have to take accountability for the choices and things that you've made in your life. And when you see those, it's easy for you to then say, oh, well, then I can level up by doing this. Because it's easy to put off important career moves without someone to keep you on track. And that's what strawberry.me does. Head on over to strawberry.me/Kristian to claim a special offer and get started. That's strawberry.me/Kristian. Stop selling. Start building the career you actually want. It will help you tremendously.
I don't know. I really don't, because it's one of those things where we all know Batman's origins, right? We all know how Batman comes in here. Oh gosh, don't go down that dark alley. Oh no. Ah, the pearls. Ah, we've seen it 1,000 times. So it is interesting to dive in with a true father-son dynamic. It's a very different take for what we've seen from movies in particular. Is it the take I want to see, though? For me, not really. To be really honest, I think that Damian Wayne is a very interesting character. I don't know if he's who I want out the gate in my Batman family. You know, in the Bat fam, I want more of Tim Drake. I want a true detective. I want Dick Grayson, who has not only this like father-son complex, but also trying to be his own hero and better hero. I want to have Red Hood come into play. I want all kinds of other stuff to happen here. I want that Jason Todd storyline because that's so interesting and horrific. And Damian sometimes kind of comes across to me the same way that like Hit Girl does, of like there's some kind of novelty to him a little bit of being a tiny assassin. And what happens when you have like a child who is this violent and trained from the jump to act in this way. There's some really interesting things to be had there. It's just, not of interest to me.
Fair. Winston, same question. Because this was announced, Brave and the Bold. Now, my question when it comes to this movie is, if you're James Gunn or or Safran, and you're like, okay, well, we announced it, but we haven't found the take. Do you say, well, we announced it, we have to do it? Or do you say, look, we never found a take, it's not really working, let's pivot? Or do you think they stick with it?
You got to pivot. I think the one thing that Gunn said that really resonates with me more than anything, and that's why I really want to make it clear, I'm being hard on him because I've seen him win the Super Bowl. Like he's won it all. So I get upset when they're not living up to when I don't feel like he's living up to those standards per se. It's not that I have hate. It's just that you've set a very high bar. The one thing that he said, and I appreciate, he goes, we don't greenlight a single thing unless it's the script works, the story works, let's get it popping. Also probably why I was a little upset about that finale. But that being said, if you can't make it work, then you just pivot and you make sure that Batman works, because I will tell you this, the DCU will not survive if you do not figure out Batman. Batman is like Spider-Man to Marvel. That is your linchpin, cornerstone, like money-making character that everybody knows and everybody will turn out to see. So you have to get it right.
Of course you got to get it right. And Winston, that's the thing. So this is where we had this whole conversation on Monday, which is like, oh my God, you might as well thought I was talking about conflicts across the world. This article that had come out, controversial as it might be, about the potential of the sale of Skydance, and Paramount to Warner Bros. Like, what does that leave for the future of DC, right? So one of the things that puts you in risk of not being there anymore, besides if movies aren't working, which is the number one, if you put a movie out like Batman, which is your number one thing, but you are so right, Winston, where Batman is the one where they're going to go, okay, well, Superman did good, but Batman's always been the guy. Batman's the guy. So who's our guy? And now they've made it very clear that they're going to push forward and go with the Batman Part 2 also. Whether you are competing and not competing at the same time. You're not competing because any money brought in by both projects is a win for Warner Brothers, right? But you are competing for the audience to say, I like that Batman better than that one. They're going to say it. One way or another, they're going to say it. And whether or not if you're James Gunn and you are, of course, rooting for Matt Reeves to win, but you need the fans to go, we like that guy better. You need them to, because otherwise they're going to go, yeah, he's good, but why couldn't Pattinson be the one who's interacting with Superman? You know, and that is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. You have to make it. And if it's good, just good, they go, well, then there's the conversation of, well, I like that one. Well, I like that one. And then it's like, well, they're both good. They're both really good. If they're both really good, then
I would hope, though, I would really hope that people think to themselves, I love this version of Batman. Does that version of Batman coexist in the world that Superman does? Because I don't think they do in any way, shape, or form.
I don't either.
And so that to me is where we then can kind of have those different stables of, hey, if I want dark, gritty, grounded Batman, if I want to watch Seven, but with somebody wearing a cape, I'm going here. Right. If I want to see the Batman Superman dynamic that makes sense in this more kind of primary color world that James Gunn has delivered me, then I do want a different Batman. Sure. I just want my cake and eat it too. I want everything that I want. Why can't I have that?
That's true, but you still, even if you're going to have that dynamic, you still have to make people like that Batman. Like Batman has to be like you said, like, look, I like that they're setting up this different tone for it, and I love that Batman. But if the majority goes, that tone and that Batman ain't work, then you got problems.
It is you are running a risk, and it's one of the reasons why, I mean, I will give Warner Brothers credit up to this point. They have never really allowed for competing Batman to happen. Like,
is that Louis Batman?
Batman.
Or John Batman?
Harry Batman.
Harry Batman.
But the idea that the only Batman you would see outside of Batman in the movies for that reason would always be animated. The one exception you saw was in Titans. They had a very brief cameo, and it was kind of Batman almost in the shadows the whole time, like fighting a bunch of cops in like a nightmare scenario. It was like a whole thing, but it's kind of why they're very tight-lipped. Even the Gotham series, you had Bruce Wayne. You didn't ever see him become Batman. You just saw him occasionally at the very end of the show put on like a ski mask and jump from a roof. And that's about it. You didn't really see him be Batman. They kept him as a kid. So they have been very careful about not overexposing the character in live action. So that's why this has always been an interesting debate, because it's like, are you legitimately going to put two movie versions out there?
You want to throw a real monkey wrench into all this, even though it kind of is the same thing that Chris was talking about, because the tones just don't work. Because this is an older Batman. This is an older Batman in general. With at least they keep this storyline, they stick with it. If they announced Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne,
I mean,
like,
kind of slap though,
right?
Like, I would kind of be here for it.
The argument would be from Chris Carr, which I would agree with, is the same. It's Nolan's Batman was based in the same kind of realism that Matt Reeves is. So it's a very different tone, but it's the one way for people to go, okay, I'm cool with having two Batman.
It's the only way.
Like right away. Like, okay, it's cool.
It's the same thing when people, because I do believe that people want a Batman Beyond movie. I think it's when we had Michael Keaton of, I could have him in the universe. I don't care, because he's Batman.
Right.
I know he's Batman. Let him be Old Man Wayne and let him train Terry McGinnis.
Yeah.
I can have the different Batman. I contain multitudes. So can they.
I know. I'm curious to see how it's going to play, but all this stuff and more, I know we kind of went away from what that actual article was about, but nonetheless, it's a good conversation.